Wrote the test today. You'll write it today. कैसा टेस्ट? इजी था? इजी था, टेस्ट तो इजी था. So you completed the paper in 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Completed in 1 hour. क्यों कम लिखा? कम लिखा था. पूरा लिखा? अच्छा, होड हाइपोथेसिस नहीं पता तुम्हें? What was Horde hypothesis? How we can interpret it in other ways? Everybody is working on the basis of self-interest. Okay, so when they are working on the basis of self-interest, they do not want a cooperative action. If they don't want cooperative action, what does it mean? That they are not ready to sacrifice. Okay, on this basis, entire classical theory has been developed. That people want to earn money or material or fulfill their self-interest through the organization. Okay, so they are not coming to the organization for the purpose of organizational goal, but they are trying to link their own goal with the organizational goal. If that is satisfied, then they are motivated. If it is not satisfied, they are not motivated. So what did you write? Only money. और कोई क्वेश्चन था? Other question was? One question on bureaucracy. I have the question. Era of orthodoxy was the manifestation of heightened sense of self-pride subjected to the realm of positivism. What is the meaning of this question? Others are easy. Era of orthodoxy was the manifestation of heightened sense of self-pride subjected to the realm of positivism. लिखेंगे क्या? But the word heightened sense of self-pride.
Heightened means that this was the only thing that they were obsessed with.
To assert their identity as similar to the natural science. लिखा है? Did you write the test? You did not write the test? You wrote the test? Why? लिखो भैया, इतना बेकार में क्वेश्चन बनाया क्या मैंने? बिना लिखे नहीं रहना. Everybody has to write. Okay, most of the online students have written. Fine, let us, today we have to finish very early. By mistake they have put a seminar at I think 1:30. Okay, let us complete our Weber. So we are talking about the behavioral characteristics. Did you see UPSC paper? Could you understand some questions? Paper 1 at least. You are able to understand certain questions? Sahi. Good. So we'll have a discussion tomorrow on the UPSC paper. Okay. Behavioral characteristics, we discuss neutrality. Okay, how do we interpret the concept of neutrality? Why neutrality is desired? Desired, undesired both. Why it is desired? इतने गुस्से में क्यों भाई? वेबर से गुस्सा है या टीचर से? So why neutrality was desired? Right, on. No, they wanted to serve everyone equally. See, bureaucracy is considered as rational instrument. Who will become emotional? Who are non-rational? Okay, who are influenced by culture, values, society. So it is supposed that these bureaucrats are immune to these things. Okay, and it was deliberately done. Okay, the Weber wanted to create, Weber himself accepts that this will lead to the dehumanization of bureaucracy. But he is saying it is desirable. Why? Because these are the people who are going to serve the justice and the public interest. So to do so, they have to be dehumanized. Because ultimately they are also social beings. Okay, so he is saying that if they are not dehumanized, then they will not be able to serve the purpose of the organization. Okay, so it was not that Weber did not knew that whatever he is talking about is ultimately going to create an insensitive, apathetic bureaucracy. But he said it is desirable for the society or public interest. Okay, and that is why the negative aspects of the neutrality is also visible. What are negative aspects? If I say bureaucracy is undesirable, neutrality is undesirable, then why it is undesirable? When neutrality results in specific kind of pathological behaviors, like we wrote certain names also. Robert Michels, Iron Law of Oligarchy, okay, then Warnock, Selznick, Merton. What are they saying? Displacement of goals. Why displacement of goals? If you will forget, then how will proceed? You got 2 days, you prepared for the test, you did not revise. Okay. So neutrality today, or neutrality was criticized by number of people that it leads to a kind of bureaucracy which is against the human spirit. Okay, humanity ke values ko, it does not incorporate the humanity or values of humanity, and that is why we do not need a neutral bureaucracy. Okay, so Indira Gandhi came with the concept of committed bureaucracy. Okay, now what is committed bureaucracy? Committed bureaucracy is supposed to be working with the society towards the fulfillment of societal goals with a human heart. Okay, a sensitive bureaucrat. Okay, but sensitive bureaucrat, is sensitive bureaucrat compatible with the bureaucracy itself? Bureaucracy does not want innovation and creativity, is only restricted to the efficiency and rationality. Okay. One of the students, online students, asked me that can we take the bureaucracy with the subject matter view? Okay, no. The bureaucracy cannot be understood with respect to the subject matter view. Why? Because it is single structure which is going to fulfill anything. So the moment we are saying that it is the ideal structure and the rational structure, how can it be linked to the subject matter? It is purely from the managerial perspective. Because it is concerned with all the controlling and the regulating functions, and it is a static structure. So if it is rigid, then how it can adapt itself to the different subject matters? Okay, so bureaucracy is purely from the managerial perspective. Okay, even the integral perspective is missing. Why? Because we do not assume that the lower levels of bureaucracy has or it has any contribution whatsoever in the decision making or the impact the administration. It is purely from the domination or authority domination perspective. Okay, the people who are there at the top, okay, they are having the centralized authority and they are the ones who are making the decisions. The lower levels only has to comply or it has to only comply with the orders of the higher levels. Itna samajh mein aaya bhai? So neutrality today, okay, we have discussed all this. We have written few questions also. So neutrality, today neutrality is viewed in a different way. So we said we want the people to be committed to the goals and not to the political party. Okay, but it is not happening, first of all. Secondly, neutrality or the assumption that bureaucrats will sit in the organization and serve as has been decided. That is also not happening today. They are not politicized, let's say. Even if they are not politicized, they are also not neutral still. So how they are non-neutral is visible in the form of the phenomena of activism, civil services activism. Okay. So it is assumed that today's bureaucrat is much more sensitive and sympathetic towards the society. He is coming from the society itself and he has the values of the society. Okay. More learned, okay, less bureaucratic. So he is more open to changes. Okay. So when the bureaucrats or the behavior of the bureaucracy is visible in the form of identifying the needs of the society, initiating the changes in the society, and at the same time suggesting positive measures to the policy makers. So policy makers, where the policy makers find or they are not able to fulfill the gap, the needs of the society, when they are not able to fulfill, then the bureaucracy identifies it and it conveys to the political masters that okay, this is to be done. That means what? The civil servants are, public servants are acting in a pro-people manner. Okay. And they are taking initiatives. They are not waiting for the wrong or mishappenings to happen and then make a solution. In fact, they are preventive in nature now. So this behavior of the bureaucracy, where we see that they are playing an active role, preventive role, more pro-people, more citizen-centric, okay, more oriented towards identifying the problems and then solving them, or maybe prior to the emergence of problem solving them, that is known as civil services activism. Activism is not to be related to the politicization of bureaucracy, because then also we find an activism. But that is purely in the interest of the political party or the heads of the government. Okay, here the activism is reflected in the form of helping nature of the bureaucracy towards the society. Okay, for example, let us say an old lady comes to seek pension and a procedure is followed by the bureaucracy, and the bureaucrat says that no, you can change this procedure, or at least for time being put on hold this procedure, let me first help that old lady rather than going through the procedure. Now that is considered as an activism. Okay. So earlier people would complain that okay, electricity is not there, road is not there, water is not there. Today what is happening? The higher level bureaucracy itself is going and finding out, doing an intelligence activity, and then forcing the lower level bureaucracy to achieve those goals. Okay. That is known as activism. So activism is supposed to be incompatible with neutrality. Okay. Neutrality would mean a status quo bureaucracy. Activism would mean a proactive bureaucracy, a pro-people bureaucracy. Okay. But that does not mean that this bureaucrat who is public interested, it also politicized. So along with the neutrality, they are being activist. Okay. So neutrality and activism, they are not antagonistic to each other. Why? Because it is active, but it is serving everyone equally again. Okay. Identifying the needs, something known as equity-based administration. One who requires more, one who requires it urgently is being delivered by the bureaucracy. Unlike the procedure-based bureaucracy. Okay. But at the same time, this bureaucracy is not influenced by the religion, culture, caste, creed, or political ideology. That means what? It is still neutral and active. The sensitivity of the bureaucracy or the earlier bureaucracy has been transformed into more empathetic and sensitive bureaucracy. That is known as activism. Okay. So you will find crusade against corruption, whistle blowing. Okay. You might be knowing what is whistle blowing. Okay. Even number of bureaucrats, they are using the media route also, which is not very good. Okay, but still they are coming out in open using the social media. Twitter, Facebook. Okay. Recently an instance in UP. Then you will see paramilitary forces, army, Jawans, they have all come out in open. So somewhere they are discarding the procedural limitations of the administration. Okay. So if they are acting in favor of the people and somehow increases the public interest, increases the public interest, then we say it is activism. Okay, but if it is done purely for the self-interest, then it will not come under the definition of activism. Then it will be the manipulation of the political system, because bureaucrats can do that. So they can easily access the social media, highlight the internal problems of the administration, and seek public sympathy or media sympathy. Okay, and then they can manipulate the political system. But that is not activism. If activism goes that way, then it is supposed to be non-neutral, because you are doing it through or doing it to gain some popularity or to gain some influence within the people. So public popularity is also one, like the police officer in Bihar, Sudeep or Shivdeep Lande. Okay. So access, now that is not required. Okay. Because if you want to reduce crime, it's not necessary that you distribute your own number. Okay. You can make sure that every inspector in your thana, okay, his number is available to the people, okay, who can immediately, and the thana behaves in a way you want it. So rather than simply taking up all the responsibility yourself, how you are going to perform then? Again, it will be detrimental, because the morale of the lower level employees will go down. The public will treat them as their enemies and you as hero. So ultimately the system will suffer. Okay, so many times, because of the thin line which separates the activism from the heroism, okay, that must be divided. Fine. So neutrality is giving way to activism, but neutrality still is influencing, or it is still within the idea of activism. Okay. Now you write. Give a heading: Civil Services Activism and Neutrality. Civil Services Activism and Neutrality. Right. Okay, Weber's assumption, Civil Service Activism and Neutrality. Weber's assumption that society must be controlled by a rational bureaucracy. This is the diagram you can make. Should be controlled by a rational bureaucracy. That is, the bureaucrats understand the public interest better than the citizens themselves. The public interest better than the citizens themselves. This assumption led to the emergence of strong bureaucracies. Difficult to be tamed. Difficult to be tamed by the democracy. Difficult to be tamed by the democracy. Neutrality was considered as a superior feature. through which the bureaucrat exercises unbiased and fair authority. This led to the isolation of bureaucracy within the society. Now, what happened because of this isolation? The bureaucracy emerged as a class. Okay, it became a class in itself. That we are the members of a superior class because we are going to serve the public interest, or we know the collective interest better than you. You people are the inferior class. Why? Because you are concerned with your interest. And we are concerned with the collective interest. So Weber himself is saying that, okay, this leads to what? This leads to a separation of the society from the bureaucracy. Okay, it emerges as, okay, there is a concept, iron cage. We have discussed little bit what is iron cage. Iron law. Okay. So there is a concept of iron cage. Okay. The bureaucrat himself is not able to leave this rationality. Okay. The bureaucrat, because he cannot leave the rationality, okay, he has become part of the superior class. Okay. So that would be something downgrading his status. Okay. And over the time, what becomes a pathological problem emerges, he becomes rational. Okay. The society believes that he is the most rational. Okay. So society's dependence on the bureaucracy does not reduce because society feels that he is the one who can serve the public interest better than me, or maybe all of us. Are you getting? So society's dependence, the bureaucrats, his own dependence on the rationality to first enjoy the superior status, and secondly because his methodology has been, or his entire personality has been developed that way. So he is not able to leave that rationality even if he wants, and the society is not able to leave the bureaucracy, even though knowing that they may not be serving our own interest, they may be serving their own interest or the political interest, but bureaucracy becomes dependent. This is known as iron cage. Oh, this is an iron cage of rationality. Okay. It has both the aspects. Okay, it talks about the structural aspect, the rationality, and the sociological aspect, that is the dependence of society on the bureaucracy. So as more and more the rationalization process takes place, the society's needs can only be fulfilled by a rational bureaucracy. And society knows it, that we cannot fulfill our interests without the bureaucracy. The bureaucrats knows that the society cannot exist without us. Okay. So they acquire a kind of supra status in the society. Okay, emerge as a class, and then because they are inevitable, now they exploit the society. Okay, once they acquire that status, it becomes easy for them to manipulate the entire or all the other systems of the society. Okay, now you write. Okay, this leads to the emergence of bureaucracy as a class. Leads to the emergence of bureaucracy as a class. Bureaucracy as a class where the society becomes dependent. Where the society becomes dependent on this rational structure. For fulfilling on this rational structure, for fulfilling its needs. In turn, the bureaucrats also acquire the moral and legal guardianship. Bureaucrats also acquire the moral and legal guardianship of the society. They themselves cannot come out of this. They themselves cannot come out of this rational structure, cannot come out of this rational structure as they themselves become a part of this process. It develops a kind of iron cage. Iron cage of rationality. Develops a kind of iron cage of rationality. Both structurally as well as socially. Structurally as well as socially. That means there is a structural superiority, and at the same time the societal or inevitable need of the society, the bureaucracy, or bureaucracy becomes the inevitable need of the society. Okay. So as a structural superiority already they have a sense of eliteness, and as the society also bestows that status on them, they become super status. So neither they want to leave it, nor they can exist inside it. Okay, because you see, logically they are also human beings. Okay. But a kind of frustration is there. Okay. They want to break the shackles of the rationality, but they are not able to do so. The moment they do so, they will become the part of the inferior class, that is the society. Okay. So it is motivated by multiple interests. One to enjoy the status, other being the moral and legal guardian of the society. They are the conscience keepers, so they become like that. They assume they are. Okay. So superiority complex of the bureaucrats. Okay. Plus their pathological condition. Okay. So they can neither go this way nor that way now. So what they have to do? They have to exist in the bureaucracy now. They cannot themselves exist without the bureaucracy. The one who gets frustrated probably leaves the job. Okay. Or goes into some other sector. Okay. Pursues something else. But he cannot exist in the bureaucracy having the sensitivity of a human being. Impossible. So being a human being, he is deprived of his own feelings. That is what the bureaucracy is. Okay. So it is not easy to be a bureaucrat. Okay. Because those are all spontaneous and natural values, or you can say feelings, which you carry. But the system does not allow you. The structure is created in such a way that you have to eliminate it and then work. How can you do that? Okay. Okay. Now, right. Okay. But the modern day political and social systems, desire a more proactive, pro-people and sensitive bureaucracy. The bureaucracy which is not just rational. The bureaucracy which is not just rational, but also understands. Is not just rational, but also understands the limits of rationality. Okay, modern day characteristics of bureaucracy may be in stark contrast, Tony Stark, stark contrast. आयरन मैन भी नहीं देखा है ना, तुम बच्चों की पिक्चर देखते हो ना बड़ों की देखते हो, भैया क्या करते हो? Stark contrast to the traditional bureaucracy. Okay. Today's bureaucrat is a problem solver. Today's bureaucrat is a problem solver, comma, does not follow the class characteristics. Is a problem solver, does not follow the class characteristics. In fact, bureaucrats are more innovative, look for out-of-box approaches, to the problems of society, and are people-centric as far as the policy advice. Is concerned. Okay. In fact, they can be considered as open model bureaucrats. Open model is when the bureaucracy does not isolate itself from the society. So what we are studying till now is considered as the closed model. So how we are viewing the organization and its structure, okay, isolating it from the other factors of the society or from the society itself. Okay. But the open model considers that no, bureaucracy is simply an extension of the society. These are not the non-rational members. These are equally rational, and it is the collaboration of this and this together. Okay. So the modern concept of the bureaucracy, even though it is debatable that whether can we call this as bureaucracy or not, because it is not the bureaucracy in the true sense of the term as conceived by Weber. Okay. Right. This phenomena of a pro-citizen centric bureaucracy is known as civil services activism. Okay, it has the following features. Number one, pro-people orientation rather than procedure orientation. Preventive or preventive than curative. They search for the problems then wait for them to appear. Okay, they have a human rights and a justice orientation. Okay, they are sensitive to the concepts like human rights, justice, okay, rights of rights of women, children, vulnerables, minorities. Okay, now that is more focus today. Okay, they are initiative takers. So rather than being status quoist, they are initiative takers. Now numerous examples are there where we see the bureaucrat Kerala, northeastern region, Assam, okay, even in states like UP and Bihar, okay, Gujarat, number of states, the bureaucrats, Orissa, number of states, the bureaucrats have taken various initiatives, okay, which has improved the performance of administration. So it is not just the efficiency related to the following or observing the procedure. Okay, now they are more concerned with the goals rather than merely the inputs. So earlier they were concerned with how best they can do it. Now they are concerned with how best we can achieve the goal or how can the goal itself be maximized. Okay. So from input to output to outcome. Okay. So earlier the concern confined to these two, the procedure or efficiency of the procedures, how well the procedures are being followed or not. Okay. Cost, time, money, rationality, output. Okay. But now it has linked itself to the outcome. Okay. What is the difference? Effectiveness. So how can we say what is outcome? Let's say the Pradhan Mantri Adarsh Gram Yojana is there. What is the purpose? To develop a model village. Okay. Now model village means what? That there are the basic amenities available, mostly like the urban areas, and at the same time, okay, the village is made independent using technology or other types of utilities. The villages will be made independent of carrying out their own functions. So employability will be high, employment opportunities will be high, skill building will be there, basic infrastructure will be there, okay, civic amenities will be there. Now what? So migration will be reduced. Okay. People's trust on the government and the administration will enhance. Okay. Public satisfaction will increase and many things. Okay. So what is the bureaucrat's purpose now? Now the bureaucrat is not just concerned with putting it on a sheet of paper or data. That okay, we have covered number of villages. Earlier his concern was what? Follow the procedure which has been created and in the information column fill as many number of villages as possible. The concern was not with the actual empowerment of the villagers. Okay, so he was concerned with the procedure, a specific procedure which has been created under the program, financial, administrative, technical, okay, and whether on paper do we have the adequate numbers or not. So he was concerned with that. Now what is there? Now he is actually concerned with the outcome of this program. So outcome would be what? If we make a school but we do not literate or make the children literate, then we have the output that is a school. But we don't have the outcome that is the literacy of the children. So most of the bureaucracies in any of the societies, not just the developing, were earlier mostly concerned with the output, that they have delivered what was required. But what has been the consequence of what we have created, it was not evaluated. So today, the bureaucracy has an outcome orientation. Okay. More concerned with the satisfaction, the actual consequence which a particular bureaucratic decision makes or does to the society. Okay, you write one line. So from input to output and output to outcome. Okay. Outcome is related to the actual consequence comma impact or public satisfaction which any administrative activity must create. The bureaucracy today is more goal oriented rather than following the procedures. So less formalism, Formalism is a belief in the observance of rules and procedures. Okay. Or sticking to the rules and procedures is formalism. Whether the goal is achieved or not, their purpose is served when they follow the rules. Okay. So it may be possible that many times observing the rules, you may not achieve the goal. As disasters, natural disasters, okay, violence, communal riots, in certain situations, terrorist attacks, you may not get the result or desired result by observing the protocols. So what are the new breed of bureaucrats? Okay, they are activist bureaucrats. Okay. But they are not activists as the politicians. Okay. They are activists in the sense of social justice or seekers of social justice and the promoters of societal benefit. Fine. Neutrality and activism. Neutrality and activism cannot be considered. Neutrality and activism cannot be considered antagonistic. As the bureaucrats are supposed to follow the basic tenets of impartiality, fairness, equality, and non-engagement in politics. In politics of the day. Paul Appleby, you write his name. Paul Appleby once remarked that bureaucrats must be committed to policy, not politics. Must be committed to policy, not politics. Or, isko in the other words also you can write, or we need politics neutral bureaucrat. We need a politics neutral bureaucrat, not a policy neutral bureaucrat. We need a politics neutral bureaucrat and not a policy neutral bureaucrat. So the one who is committed to policy is already pro people. Okay. An activist. Okay. One who is committed to politics is not an activist. He is a politicized bureaucrat. He is a self-interested bureaucrat. Later we will study public choice approach. So public choice approach is bringing the same idea. Okay. That bureaucrats are not neutral. They are committed to their own interest and the political interest. Okay, so various case studies we will study when we do the civil services in India, that how they have influenced the entire, or you can say the politics and society, how it has benefited out of the bureaucracy's activism within the, let's say, last 20-25 years. CAG, okay, Vinod Rai. So it was Vinod Rai's activism, standing up against the established institutions like the government, the finance ministry, okay, and which are obviously powerful institutions in the country. So he or the institution of CAG stood against them, okay, and not necessarily against the values of the Constitution. So to protect the values of the Constitution, they had to stand against their own government. CAG is part of the executive. Okay. So standing against its own government just to uphold the values of the Constitution and society, that is what they did. Now this is activism. That you are no more acting as per the directives given by the top level. Okay, because you believe that you are supposed to protect the public interest and not the interest of only people who are sitting in power. Okay, so it is not the duty of the CAG to protect the vote bank of the party in power. Okay. So you can write an example so that if you read you will remember, otherwise we will write detailed case studies later. Okay. Okay. Example. देखो भैया, आउटकम इंटेंजिबल मतलब उसका जो बेनिफिट होगा वो विजिबल हो सकता है, ठीक है, जो लेकिन जो सेंस ऑफ अचीवमेंट या सेंस ऑफ जो सेटिस्फैक्शन होगा वो तो इंटेंजिबल ही होगा. आउटकम, एक लेडी को अगर लाइट इलेक्ट्रिसिटी मिल जाए, ठीक है, या लेडी के जो हाउस होल्ड एक्टिविटीज है वो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी से चलते हो या यूज होते हो, या बच्चे को पढ़ना हो, ठीक है, तो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी से उसको जो सेंस ऑफ सेटिस्फैक्शन होगा वो कैसे कैलकुलेट होगा? वो तो नहीं हो सकता ना कैलकुलेट. आउटकम इंटेंजिबल का मतलब ही नहीं. आउटकम इज रिलेटेड टू द sense of public trust and sense of public satisfaction. Okay, so you can have more number of policemen, but can you make me secured? Factually you can, okay, but in terms of value you cannot. भाई normatively तो आप मुझे नहीं बोल सकते कि नहीं तुम अब feel करो safe because I have opened more number of police stations and I have employed more number of police personnel. So now you consider yourself safe. Okay, I cannot unless I have the sense of security. Now that is intangible. So you may develop as many highways you want, but if people believe that these highways have been an outcome of exploitative land acquisition policy till that time, what will you do? तो गोल हाईवे बनाने का क्या है? सिर्फ रोड्स को डेवलप करके और ट्रांसपोर्टेशन को बढ़ाना नहीं है. कमर्शियल बिजनेस या क्या बोल सकते हैं, दिस cargo and all this trade, that is not the purpose. The purpose is that people must feel that what has been done, it has been done in our interest. So how you create it? Okay. तो आउटपुट तो इनपुट है आउटकम के लिए, ठीक है. आउटपुट इज नॉट द एंड. दैट इज द लॉजिक ऑफ बीइंग इंटेंजिबल. ठीक है, तो बनेगा तो रोड ही, ऑब्वियस है. आउटपुट इज रिक्वायर्ड, बट हाउ दैट आउटपुट वुड बी परसीव्ड, accepted by the people, now that is more important. Are you understanding? Fine. Right example. Okay, for example, CAG audit of the 2G and the coal scam provides an apt illustration of how the civil services activism can protect the public interest and increase public trust within the constitutional values. Okay. So, okay, when the CAG Vinod Rai audited, see, Bihari can do many things. That is why Bihari becomes a different species. Okay. So, Vinod Rai, he was, first you understand, he was criticized, okay. Most of the political parties, the government were against the audit report of the CAG. Why they were against? Because he had technically bypassed his jurisdiction, according to them. So the Constitution says that the CAG's role is confined to or audit of economy. Okay. His role is confined to technical audit. You've read CAG? Which article? 148. So CAG, if we see, CAG powers are not given in the Constitution. Okay, the powers of the CAG are not mentioned in the Constitution, except that he will be the protector of the public fund. Okay. So he will have a role, okay, to protect the public fund, to estimate or evaluate the expenses of the central and the state governments. Okay. So how it is done, it is not provided in the Constitution. So there is a law. CAG Duties and Powers Act 1971. Okay, under this, powers have been given to the CAG. That how he is going to do, what is the constitutional role given to the CAG. So technicalities are mentioned here. Okay, so it is saying that his role must be confined to a technical audit. Okay. And at the maximum, the performance audit. That too, you can say since 2006, the CAG is doing. Okay, generally it was not doing the performance audit also. I mean, it was not the performance audit which it was doing today, or which it is doing today. So this technical audit is what it is, merely the estimation of money given so whether this money has been spent on the purpose for which it was allotted or not, or the money that much was, or how much money was given for the particular purpose, it has been spent or not, that is a technical audit. Okay. So along with the technical, compliance audit is also done, which can be said to be an extension of the technical audit. Compliance audit is like whether all the rules, regulations were complied with or not. Okay. Now, when the money is allotted, okay, let us say, so money, when it is allotted from the central government through the budget or by the state's government, so this money is divided into different ministries. Okay, demand for grants. Okay, so there is a procedure of budgeting. So every ministry gets the allocated amount, and within a ministry various departments are there. Now the money is distributed between them. Okay, between various or within various departments there may be sectors, subsectors. Now money is allocated to them. Likewise, you can see there is an elaborate structure of how the money will be distributed within a ministry, and likewise for all the ministries. Okay. Now what you can say, the distribution of this money is done in such a way that from one particular department to another department it cannot be transferred. Within a department from one sector to another sector it cannot be transferred. Within a sector from one subsector to another subsector it cannot be transferred. Okay. So Ministry of Agriculture or Ministry of, let's say, Panchayati Raj, if the money is given for, okay, let us say irrigation, then irrigation, drip irrigation, and one may be the canal construction, okay, the other may be something. So it is so rigid that from the drip irrigation to the canal it cannot be transferred. Okay. At the departmental level, though, it cannot be. Even at the lowest level also, from one particular sector or activity to another activity, this money cannot be transferred. Okay, that is what the role of the CAG is. So he evaluates it. So whether money given from this act for this activity was used for this activity only in the following manner or in the manner which has been given by the government. Okay, that is a technical audit. But what Vinod Rai did, there is a performance audit. Performance audit is like evaluating not only the input, that is the money and how the money was channelized and how it was used, but also whether it was used for the purpose and whether this purpose was successful. That means you made the school, but did the school do for what it was created? So they are linking every penny which you spend with the outcome. That is a performance audit. Okay. But CAG or Vinod Rai under CAG under the Vinod Rai, it went one step further. Okay. It included the propriety audit. Okay, under its function. Okay. Even though you can say technically it is not given, but he said that the role which is given to the CAG, that role is so important. Okay, CAG is not just an accountant, he is not a bookkeeper. Okay, so CAG is not just a bookkeeper or an accountant, CAG is the So if the constitution says that CAG is the guardian of the public purse, then what does it mean? So he said it is my duty, not only legal and constitutional but also moral, that nobody can play with the public money, nobody can misuse the public money. So what he did, he conducted propriety audit also. And propriety audit is like evaluating the intention of the person or the institutions which are spending the money. So if you do something, okay, then why did you do this? And why you did not do something else? So if there were options and alternatives and choices available with the person who are, or people who are spending the money, they evaluated that also. That if they had this choice, then why did they go with this choice and not this choice? Was this choice more beneficial for public interest or the one which was made by the bureaucrat? Now they started evaluating that also. So propriety audit is what? It is like an ethics audit or ethical audit of the government expenditure. It tried to evaluate the real intention of the people who are spending the money. Okay, so based on this propriety audit, okay, he came up with his estimation that something like 1,67,000 crores or 76,000 crores was what? It was not the real money. Okay, he said it was the presumptive loss to the government. So if you had followed this procedure rather than what you did, then you could have earned 1,67,000 crores for the people. That means if you had not, and you are a bureaucrat, you have all the knowledge, okay. So if you have not followed this procedure, then somewhere either you did it consciously or under some political pressure. So where did this 1,67,000 crore, where did it go? So if you are ignorant of the law or ignorant of the decision, okay, or choice, then you must have raised an objection. Okay. Even if you are ignorant, that cannot be accepted that you are sitting there and you are saying or you are pleading that you are ignorant. Okay, now this raised a debate. Many political parties, okay, government members, they criticize that the constitution's role given to the CAG is only this, and he must not indulge in this. He must not suggest the policy makers what they should have done. It is the role of the government. Now this is an activism. You cannot say activism is just distributing the phone number to the people. Okay, that is not an activism. The activism can be considered truly institutional when it creates a system or process, rather than it is individual centric. Okay. So even though individual bureaucrats have also taken the initiative, but some have went on to create a process, a system. Now that is a better activism than restricting the benefit of or restricting the public interest to only an individual. So if individual would be there, the public interest would be better served. If he is not there, it is not served. Now that is not the correct way. The approach is that you create a process. Are you getting this? So activism here is the recent example where we find that the top level bureaucratic or administrative institutions, okay, have or they have not or they have denied, okay, or they have somewhere eliminated the role or excessive role of the political system into their working, and they have done it voluntarily. Okay, it is not some new law has been made. They have interpreted the existing law, and based on that they have identified their role, importance of their institution within the society, and they have come as the protectors of the social and public interest, even if the government probably is not wanting that. So there is a philosophical assumption that the state is going to work in the public interest. But if the state or the government is not working, but the administrative institutions are standing in front of the government, that okay, no, will not let you hamper the public interest. Now that is activism. Okay. Because this is not traditionally, this cannot be considered to be the traditional role of administration. Okay. If you see the dichotomy, then they will be purely related to the implementation. Okay. So under dichotomy, the bureaucrat is acting more like a technical expert, a specialist, rather than a moral conscience keeper of the society. Okay. इतना समझ में आया भाई? You have written it? Fine. Let us move then. So one of the important or most important characteristic, neutrality and its various aspects. Wherever again we'll need it, we'll use it. Second important feature was apolitical nature of the bureaucrats or bureaucracy. Okay, it has certain important aspects. One, restriction on the political activities of public servants, like contesting elections, misusing, canvassing, misusing public resources Okay, discouraging okay. Discouraging their kith and kin from contesting elections from where they are posted, being honest and transparent regarding the political activities of family members, so they can have a political ideology, but public display of the same through various means. Public display of the same through media or other channels is not allowed. The high level bureaucracy must not so high level bureaucracy must not form political unions or associate with such organizations which are banned or banned or not recognized by the government. The high level bureaucracy cannot resort to collective bargaining, bands, strikes, hartals, restrictions on freedom of speech and expression. Okay. So they cannot become members of the political unions or of any organization which are which are banned by the government, or they are not recognized by the government, okay, or somewhere they are anti-establishment in nature. Okay. Okay. They cannot also resort to collective bargaining, bands, hartal, strikes and all. Okay. And also there is a restriction on their freedom of speech and expression. Okay. Though they can become the members of associations which are recognized by the government. So even their fundamental rights are restricted compared to the citizens. So they may not enjoy the same or certain rights same as the citizens. So numerous restrictions on the public servants to ensure that they are apolitical. So it includes variety of things. Okay. Now freedom of speech and restriction is a common phenomena which is visible across the countries, whether developed or developing. Okay. In US, the Hatch Act 1 and Hatch Act 2, that becomes the basis of the restriction on the freedom of speech and expression of political activities of the public servants used in number of countries. The same law. Okay. So it has very unique things. It is saying that public servants, while interacting with the media or while speaking on behalf of the government or even acting as alter egos, diplomatic relationships, okay, they are bound by or they are restricted by the what? Restricted by the law. Okay. Law in what sense? That they cannot bring their own personal political opinions into the discussion or interaction. Okay. So they will convey only what has been decided by the government, and even though they may have a political ideology which is duly respected, but this political ideology will neither influence nor will be visible in the public, and that public or public sphere may include any place, okay, apart from the office also. Okay. So that public sphere is not just the office or the official work. It is saying that public may include the personal space also. You are attending a marriage, you are attending a function, you are attending some informal event, and there also it is saying that you are subject to the control of this law. So you must not be very vocal about your political orientation, neither your political opinion of the government or its policy. So your personal opinion regarding policy, programs or the politics of the day must not be visible in the public. So as far as the political activities and the political orientation of the bureaucrats are concerned, he must be totally isolated, or it must be totally isolated from the public gaze. So resorting to media, Twitter, social media, Facebook, okay, generally this is not allowed in the government. Okay. Why it is done? Again the same thing. The government is functioning like one entity, and administration is only an instrument of the government. So if the administration becomes vocal about so many things, what happens? It becomes institutional in character. Okay. It may act contrary to the views, or it may have certain views contrary to the government. Okay. So there is huge restriction on the political activities. Okay. Hatch Act, Taft-Hartley Act. There are a number of acts we will study, comparative PubAd. Okay. So this also became one of the important bases on which the fundamental rights and various other rights of the public servants can be restricted, especially the military, the paramilitary, police forces and the top level bureaucracy. Okay. If that is not done, then various kinds of restrictions can be imposed by the government: dismissal, removal, termination, suspension, demotion. Okay. Even number of laws talk about the punitive actions against criminal proceedings against the public servants if they disclose any information in public. Okay. So Official Secret Act 1923, which is the basis of exemptions given under the Right to Information Act, okay, or Whistleblowing Act. Okay, so whistleblowing, if it is done with an expressed interest of harming the organization in which one is working, that is considered to be something against the spirit of neutrality and apolitical nature. Have you understood this much? You write one question. Okay, the same statement what Appleby says, but in a different way. Okay. Okay. The administrators must be politically neutral, not policy neutral. The administrators must be politically neutral, not policy neutral. Comment. Same 150 words. Okay. Second question. Civil services activism views administrators as agents of society rather than a class. Okay. Evaluate. Okay. Third question. Civil services neutrality and activism are not incompatible. Neutrality and activism are not incompatible. Explain. Okay, one more you write. Okay, लिखिए. Weber was not unsympathetic to the plight of the individual bureaucrat. Weber was not unsympathetic to the plight of the individual bureaucrat. In fact, he deplored himself was critical, deplored the bureaucratic, deplored, what the In fact, he deplored what the bureaucratic settings could do to the human spirit. But he accepted that dehumanization of bureaucracy was essential to social progress, and the elimination of injustice. Okay, in the question ni kahani hai, likho haan. In the context of above, bring out the moral views associated with the Weberian bureaucracy. So you have to analyze that why, in spite of its character and the assumption or the understanding of the bureaucratic character or bureaucratic dysfunctionalities, why Weber still considers it to be a moral force in the society. Okay. So there is a moral view of the rational system. Okay. So you cannot say that it is purely without values. Okay, we want science because we want to advance the human values. So if we say we can increase the social benefit, equity, distribution of resource in a more fair and transparent manner, for that we require ICT. So see, what is our orientation? Our orientation is positivistic because methodologically we are positivistic. But what is our basic value system? That is normative. Because we want to eliminate the injustice through the technology. So methodologically we are positivist. Okay. But what we want to achieve is the normative goal of the equality and justice in the society. Weber is methodologically anti-positivist, but he develops a positive structure, but he associates a moral value with that. Are you getting? Confusion to nahi hai? Weber's methodology was anti-positivistic, but he goes on to develop a structure, a positivist structure. But ultimately why? Because he wants or he feels that it will serve the moral ends of the society. What are the moral ends? The equality, fairness, equity, no biasness, no politicization. These are moral values. Neutrality is a moral value. It is not, cannot be said that it totally dehumanizes. Okay. No human being or any human being who does not believe in equality will be neutral. So only those people can be neutral who believe that by being neutral they are able to serve the interest of the society better. Are you getting this point? Okay. So don't misunderstand Weber. Okay. Weber may have been criticized for his structure or the limitations of his structure or lack of understanding of the flexibility which was necessary for, let us say, developing societies in the structure of bureaucracy. But obviously you understand his logic, that he is saying that there must be some ideal through which or to which we can relate our existing means or existing institutions of administration. If we cannot relate it, okay, then obviously we will never look for a better system. We will never go ahead and find out the best system. Okay, we will always have an excuse for operating the system which is existing. So there is a huge moral concern regarding or behind the Weberian bureaucracy. Okay. So any answer you write, just totally don't discard Weber as being positivist and rationalist and he did not consider. No. That may have his methodology, but not his basic value system. Okay. सही है तो आज we'll have to, because I was also not informed, they have put a seminar in this class. Okay. Tomorrow we'll have a discussion on the UPSC paper. Okay, if you have not seen, kindly go and see. Just once you see it, if you are able to understand certain things. But we have to know the sources, why certain questions were asked, what we can do to improve, though the question was quite average. Question paper was not tough. But obviously any new student, for any new student, obviously there were certain things which were complicated. Older students might have done the paper very well. But if they had been more practical, then only because you see the question paper, give examples, give illustrations, give this, give that. Okay. Unfortunately, many questions which we have discussed, which we gave in the test series, all are there in the exam. More than 6-7 questions are there. So if somebody had done it properly, he can do it. If he had used more case studies, policies, programs, they would have completed well. Okay, that means there was not much theoretical aspect in the paper. Okay. But even though if you are writing a general question, still you require the concept. It is more difficult to write a general question. Okay. So if it is asked, okay, what was the Weber's methodology or Weber's ideal type of domination or theoretical concept behind the authority and domination, then it is easy to write. Okay, but if they give you define or identify the aspects of authority and domination, okay, then it will become more difficult. So the question is more generalized, it is more difficult to write. Okay, because you don't know the roadmap. If it is factual, it is easy to write. So in that regard, the paper is also not that easy if people don't have content. So tomorrow we'll discuss that. Okay, we'll meet at 11:30. Okay, if there is any change in time, they will inform you. So kindly, your mobile, and keep your number verified with them. Okay. So if you get any message, kindly look into the message. But we say there will be no change. Even if it is instead of 11:30, it may be 11, maybe. If that happens, you will inform you. See you tomorrow then.